party stood around the grave. She looked at some nearby gravestones, recent additions, engravings still sharp, lots of flowers and photographs. The Skelfs had buried some of these people, and she wondered how the bereaved were coping. Were they dealing with it better than she was with Jim's death? It was half a year now, and it was true what she'd told others for decades. The sharp pain did reduce, replaced by an aching throb, background emotional noise that gave life a bittersweet edge. The young Church of Scotland minister said a few quiet words to Gordon Blackie and his sons. They were working-class Scottish men, buttoned up and stoic. There would be no wailing and gnashing of teeth today. Plus, Susan Blackie had suffered dementia for years, so it felt like she'd left them a long time ago. Death was often a relief, though it was hard to admit that. The minister began the familiar intonations of the ceremony. Susan's life was remembered. Our fragile nature in the face of the Almighty was given a nod. The minister was in his 20s, floppy black fringe that he kept touching. Dorothy wondered how someone went into that profession fresh from school or college. But then, she had entered the funeral business at the same age. She looked around. The oak and beech trees were coming into leaf, the rejuvenation of spring. But there would be no rejuvenation for Susan Blackie. Nevertheless, Dorothy couldn't help feeling something, a sense of rebirth, a chance to make the world new again. The highest branches swayed in the breeze, pigeons and crows perched and watching. Dorothy heard the shush of Easter Road traffic mixed with the minister's words. His voice didn't have the gravitas for funerals yet, not enough experience. The Blackie men stared stony-faced at Susan's coffin, as if they could lower it into the ground with sheer willpower. Dorothy heard a police siren, faint but getting louder. She listened for the change in pitch, the Doppler effect Hannah had explained to her, when the source of the sound travelled away instead of towards you. But it didn't change. The wailing just got louder, making the minister pause his eulogy. There was an almighty metallic crash, and Dorothy spun round to see the iron cemetery gates buckle and spring from their hinges, clatter into the stone pillars either side, and collapse, as an old white Nissan careened into the graveyard and pummelled along the gravel path on the south side, rising into the air over bumps and swerving between graves. It was moving at maybe 50 miles per hour, engine a high whine, as the siren got louder and a police car thundered through the cemetery gates in pursuit. The Nissan braked and swerved at the bend in the path, fishtailed into a headstone which fell like a domino. The car straightened and sped up, the police car copying its trajectory round the bend, running onto the grass. The Nissan glanced off 2 more gravestones and ricocheted across the path, the gravestones tearing chunks from the front bumper, denting the driver's door. It was 100 yards away from the hearse, the family car and Susan's coffin. The Blackie party stood with eyes wide, Dorothy the same, the minister with his mouth open. The hearse was blocking the path, but the Nissan kept racing towards them, bouncing along, clattering against headstones and thumping over grassy mounds. The police car was behind, lights flashing, sirens screaming. The Nissan was almost at the hearse now. As Dorothy felt someone pulling her, Archie was yanking her arm. She stumbled towards a large memorial stone just as the Nissan rushed past her, swerved away from the rear of the hearse, scattering mourners, the Blackie men jumping out of the way. The car clattered into the gravestone next to Susan's coffin, bounced into the air, then its front end dipped, and it landed with a sickening thud halfway in the empty grave, its rear end hanging in the air, wheels spinning. The police car skidded to a halt a foot from the hearse, and its siren stopped. The sudden quiet was disorienting, as Dorothy straightened and ran to the Nissan. She went past Susan's coffin, which seemed unscathed, to the driver's side of the car. She hauled at the crumpled door 3-4 times. Eventually it opened, and she leaned in. Behind the wheel was a dishevelled young man in dirty clothes, with longish hair and an untidy beard. He wasn't wearing a seat belt, and there was no airbag. He had a long gash